It's filming. Hi, welcome back to my channel, and today's video is, well, not coming as a surprise. Well, today we're going to talk about all these books that I read since my last wrap up. There is 2 more days to August, so today's the 29th. First things first, I'm going to tell you the books that I'm not going to get finished. I had actually started these, well, one of these during Reading Rush in July, the other one all the way back in April, and I'm not going to get these done in the next couple of days, but I need to make them a priority. I have The Mayor of Castlebridge by Thomas Hardy. I am just learning Thomas Hardy is not for me. So, that being said, it comes out of my mouth and I'm like, but everybody claims that I will love Far From the Maddening Crowd, I think it is. Like, people that don't like Tess of D'Urberville, which I did not like. Mayor of Castlebridge, the movie, I enjoyed, and that sounds weird to say. But, I don't know. Like, Far From the book, it's just, it's Hardy, and, He likes to sermonize, and he likes to take forever to come to the point. And in this one, we just, I don't know, it's just so slow moving. The movie had Ciarán Hinds in it, and that's honestly the only cast of characters I can remember. I just happen to really like Ciarán Hinds, and if I'm even saying his name right. I know I'm saying his last name right. And it's the only movie that I have watched with my husband, and it finished and my husband was bawling. Like, it moved him that much. So I think there's definitely something about Thomas Hardy that appeals to men and their sense of justice. But to be honest, like I said, I know how this ends. So maybe that's one reason why it's stopping me from picking it up, continuing. Like, I know the plot. So why am I still reading it? Well, it's a classic, and sometimes movies tend to leave out things that the classic, what made it a classic, what made it good, and the movie just kind of adapts things and whatever. But anyway, all that to say, now I kind of want to rewatch the movie and do comparison and contrast, but I don't know. Okay, if I don't like Tess of D'Urberville, and Mayor of Castlebridge is okay for me, that's just meh, am I really going to like Far From the Maddening Crowd? If you think I will, leave it down below. The other one I am trying to read and finish is George MacDonald, The Tutors' First Love. George MacDonald was very influential with people like Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, and one of my favorite authors, Michael Phillips. And I don't know, it just kind of fits the formula of classical Christian fiction. Things like Grace Hemmingson Hill, now I can't even remember all the ones, Elizabeth Alden. It just fits all of that, and there may be like one or two really good solid conversations that I take away from it, but insofar as plot, I feel like I've read them all, and there's nothing in them that makes me excited to read more from them. That makes sense. So, why am I still pushing through George MacDonald? Well, actually, some of his children's books are some of my favorites. The Lost Princess was one of my favorites as a child. I reread that so many times. I love it. I need to finish reading that with my daughter. We actually had started that before we moved. So it's probably somewhere. Do we still have The Lost Princess?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And that one's like the wise woman that kidnaps the spoiled princess and takes her away. And I really love that one. Princess and the Pauper and Princess and the Curdy, and another one, like I enjoyed those a lot as a kid, so maybe it's just, I think he's better as a children's author. Who knows? Let's move on, because I really want to get these to the library today so that I keep up my good credit. Speaking of library, the next stack I have to share with you is all library books. What was going to say? These are all library books that I checked out. I actually got this idea from Chantal over at Intentional Life or Intentional Homeschooling. I think she has 2 channels, so now I'm getting confused. But Chantal and Intentional, I've mentioned her before. She'll be linked down below so you guys can go check her out if you haven't already. She was sharing how her library at the bottom of the receipt like keeps track of how much they have saved a year checking out library books, and it's in the thousands. And I just was like, oh, I have never thought of that. And so I went to my local library and I just started browsing their shelves based on the books that I had in my Amazon cart. To fully understand that, I have about 300 to 400 books in my Amazon cart. It's like in the save for later thing of things that I want to read or look more into or research more, blah, 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 blah. And so I just started looking for books that were in there on my library shelves, and I did find a stack this time. And some of them were like Louise Penny is one that I'm still trying to find, but none of our local libraries have the first 8. They only have all the ones after that. So it'll be interesting to see where we can go, but let's get out to the books I'm still talking about. Anyway, all that to say, doing this, I calculated how much they were on Amazon, removed them from my cart. That felt so good, except for 2. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I saved like $70, which is phenomenal. Let's support our local libraries more. And I really liked that idea of keeping track how much I saved and trying to get the ones out of my Amazon cart, mainly because then I can see if they're actually worth putting on my shelves. And so the 2 that I really enjoyed and would like to own, and so I'll keep an eye out at thrift stores, I think. I don't think I'll purchase them if I can avoid it. Actually, there's 3.
3 of what?
3 books I want to own. But the first 2 are by the same author, Jennifer Nielsen. N-I-E. It could be now. I think it's Nielsen. I already talked about Words on Fire. I still have this because my daughter checked it out because she wanted to read it and she flew through it and loved it. I got the next one that I have. Oh, she's looking at me like. The next one that I got by Jennifer Nielsen, and I'm going to try it here. If I can do this so that the glare isn't happening. A Night Divided. So Words on Fire is Lithuanian history before World War I, as the communist party is just taking over. The Russians just are going to wipe out any civilization except their own and their own laws and rules. Night Divided is Berlin Wall. And so this basically begins the night before the Berlin Wall went up, and the dad and the son are going to go to the West Berlin and basically to see if they can get a house, a job, and then the family's going to move over. Well, during the night, the Berlin Wall went up, and so now East Germany and West Germany is divided, and it's heavily guarded. And one of the most significant, most dramatic, most just a bomb drop line in here is they built a wall. And if the West is, or if the East is so great, why did we need a wall to keep us in? And that is paraphrased, that's not completely copied. If you follow me on Instagram, I actually have the direct quote there. So if you're not following me on Instagram, Sodbuster Living, I keep it so simple. And I just share a lot of the quotes that I love from the books, and I share my thoughts and my reviews, and it's really to help those that follow me on there for like living book reviews and just wanting more of that. I'm going to actually also ask you, I have been asked a few times about making book lists, and I have been in the process of making book lists. And then I get terrified because when I'm making the book list of the books that we really like and enjoy and I recommend, I think of certain people in my life that I'm like, but they would hate this book. But I really liked it, but they would hate this book. So why am I making a list? Because it's not going to be helpful for them. And then I think of all the book lists out there that I really enjoy, and maybe like half of them I don't agree with. I have read and I just don't agree with. And the other half, I'm like, oh, these are really good. I should look more into some of these other books recommended. So all that to say, if a book list would be something that you're interested in, leave it down below. Just so then I can kind of either move forward or step back from this project, because it's a lot of work. But Night Divided. It is different in the sense that Words on Fire is more about a timid girl. When I was reading it, I just kept thinking of certain children in my life and how similar they think and they act. Not really think, but they act, I don't know their thoughts, like her. And so just that more timid, setback kind of thing, character. And I think I would have been more like this, whereas in A Night Divided, Gertrude is more bold and definitely not the kind of person I would be. But her mother is fearful, let's go along with whatever they want because then we're safe and we have a good life here. As long as we do whatever we're told to do, we have a good life. And just that whole thought of it just really hit home for, I know I have a glare. I'm like, how do I do this without the glare? It just really hit home to me how many people do think like that. Go along with the norm because it's safer that way. And because of that, I think I really, really was impacted by this book. Insofar as her gumption, her tenacity to get things done, it was refreshing for someone that's not like that, that's not willing to go against the crowd, the one that just kind of stands still thinking that is not the right way, but do I have the gumption to go that way? I'm more that person. And so it's refreshing to see Jennifer Nielsen kind of put a characters from two opposite spectrums into her books, and just you relate to them one way or another. I loved how Nielsen showed a lot of the, it wasn't Germans that were kind of the tyrannical controllers of East Berlin. It was actually the Russians and their communism. And I really liked how she didn't come out and say communism as much. She did say it, she did mention it, she did use that term, but it was more about ideals and then linking all of that to communism. And I think that actually was more telling than anything else. I actually really wanted to come in and make the point that what I meant by that whole statement is that sometimes we get stuck with the word communism and we think it means one thing, but communism is a whole set of ideas, and I think the author showed those ideas better than just using a word to encompass the whole ideas. And I hope that makes sense to you. So again, this was like 5 stars for me. Things that I was reading out loud to my husband. We have decided that we would actually like to own these, and we're actually going to use them as family read-alouds because they spark so many good conversations. Okay, 2 other books that I've had in my Amazon cart forever. If you hear background noise, my daughter is making me cheesecake, and I'm not going to ask her to stop. No, while I'm filming this. So, Fly Girl by Sherry L. Smith. This is about and I used the term and I was reprimanded for it, but the author uses it, so I'm going to go with what the author has used, and it's a colored woman. So Fly Girl is about a colored woman. So, and what I mean by that is, again, author uses it, so don't start attacking me. The girl is trying to remember, is it her father? Or her mother? Oh, father. It was her father. Because her father died. Okay, her father's dead. He was a crop pilot person. What do they call that? Crop dusting. Crop dusting. He was a crop dusting pilot. Taught his daughter how to fly. She loves flying. She wants to be a pilot. She went to get her license. She's female. And she's a black woman. Black colored woman. The reason she's considered colored and why it's important to know this distinction is she decides to pass as a white woman. She can do this in order to get into the WASP flight during World War II. So she decides to pretend she's white, which was very dangerous during those times, in order to become part of this WASP program. And the story kind of shows a lot of the difficulties women had to go through just to kind of prove themselves. Some of the operations they were sent in, basically, again, so that it was, if there was any fault in it, it was them. It wasn't anything to do with the guy pilots. So it was really interesting. It was really interesting to me just because of things she had to do in order to, and the difficulties she had because she was colored. So she was a servant, and now she's doing these things that could imprison her or worse. And she's having to do them with the confidence of pretending she's white. And so there's sections of the bar or the halls that they go into, joints, whatever you want to call it, with the music playing and dancing. And here she is kind of freaking out because, like, she's not even supposed to be in here with everybody else, and she's dancing with a white man. So lots of scary times. There is language in here. It is for teen. It's a teen fic, and grades 6 to 8. I would actually say grades 9 to 12. I do not remember. I'm going to leave my Goodreads account link down below because I'm better about reviewing right away any content that I think would be objectionable on my Goodreads. But by the end of the month, I just remember the essence of the story. I don't remember all those specific details like language and sex and all those things. So go ahead and check out the Goodreads. It'll be left down below. But I remember giving this 3.5, 4 stars. So I really did enjoy that aspect of this, and especially her friendship with the other girls. And again, she's living a lie, and so she's like, our friendship is based on this lie. Would we still be good friends if they knew the truth, kind of thing. It's also hard for her because passing off as a white woman, and her mother and sister and friends are just almost shunning her for the same reason. Like, you think you're better than us, you're not accepting of who you are, rather than seeing to the length she's going in order to almost break the stigma, for lack of a better word. I don't know. I thought that was a really good book. Did enjoy it. The other one I have is Misfit Fire, Reaching Helen Keller by Sarah Miller. And this is more about Annie Sullivan. It's told from her perspective. And it kind of illustrates why Annie Sullivan and her tenacity and her personality, how it worked with Helen, because she is in a way that kind of Spitfire type of girl personality. It was showing how she was able to relate to Helen in the sense that, hey, I know what you're doing here. Okay, it's the kind of thing that I would do. So because of that, she was able to work well with Helen. But it also meant that they butt heads a lot. And what I liked about this book is just more of the background of Annie Sullivan, which I feel like I'm the only one that watched Helen Keller as a kid more to watch Annie Sullivan, which I think the Helen Keller story is more about Annie Sullivan than it is about Helen Keller. Like, she would still be just somebody locked in a world without her teacher. And so I think it's really about that relationship. The bulk of the story is based on the letters that Annie Sullivan had written to Helen Keller. And it's, again, since it's told from the first person perspective, we do have a lot more of Annie Sullivan's background. There were some things that I was looking up, and on Helen Keller's biography website, I think it was, they showed how, and I looked this up, how she had come to this orphanage with her brother Jimmy, I believe, and how there, in this story, there's more to the family and the father is still living. And I was like, wait a minute, but I don't remember that from Miracle Worker or The Story of My Life. I don't remember any of that. And so I was looking her up, and yeah, the dad and the mom died. Dad was a drunk. Dad decided he couldn't take care of them. A couple of the kids, one or two of the kids that lived, I think one died, got shipped off to family, and Jimmy and Annie were sent to this horrific orphan home. And again, the website just shared Annie Sullivan. Another website kind of talked about the horrors of these orphan homes during this time. They're just overrun. So it was hard in the sense of reading all of that. It's interesting to see more of Annie, as Spitfire she is, kind of gain confidence in herself, in the sense that she's basing her teaching, I think of a good way to put it. All this information that she is using to teach Helen is based on a doctor and his work with another patient. I don't remember the doctor. I don't remember the patient. And so Annie Sullivan is taking that and is going to try to do it with Helen Keller. And she's, you know, just so frustrated that she's not getting anywhere. She only has a certain amount of time. It took this other doctor a whole year, and within months, Annie Sullivan was able to break through with Helen. And how she did that wasn't so much the hands-on teaching of speaking and words. That was a part of it, but another part of it was just being a well-respected child. And then, I don't know, I don't know, am I making sense? It was a whole child kind of education. And I really liked that. I'm really glad that I read it. It's not something I would want to own, but it was really enlightening, especially for those of us that really like Annie Sullivan as a character. She's always reminded me of somebody that was just quiet but strong personality. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I really like that. Then I have two more books. One, I'll start with this one. This is Recipes, and this is Fountains of Silence. I have seen this so many places on BookTube, or, you know, raving about it. I had seen it in my library, but it had a very long wait list. COVID happened, and then I actually was able to get my hands on it, because I don't know if they just people canceled checking out books, or people were able to read through them more quickly, so I was able to get more up on the list. Not sure, but I have Fountains of Silence. This is my first Rita Septys book. I have on my TBR cart Salt to the Sea, and this one is Spain, Madrid, 1958 beginning. It's interesting to me how many books this month unknowingly or unplanned ended up to deal with a lot of communism influence. And this one is Spain, and basically your hierarchy, your the rich and the life they present in Madrid during this time, and the poor who are just struggling to meet, and they're kind of just swept away so that no Westerners can see the real Spain, the real Madrid. And it's about this family, basically, and you're following one woman who works in a hotel, so she is exposed to a lot of the Western culture, the Western civilians, and her ideals and her dreams. And she lives with a family with a brother who is also best friends with a grave digger, basically, and their horror story growing up and their ambitions in life. You also have her other sister who is married and a baby, and all of these people are living in this tiny home in Spain, and just that perspective from them and their fear of everything happening. And then you have a typical American Texan cowboy guy who's kind of, he's kind of looked down on because his mother is Hispanic, and so he's kind of like half white, half Hispanic. And so he kind of deals with a little bit of guff as well. And so I think because of that kind of personality character, he is more understanding and forgiving of, or understanding and sympathetic with some of the other people. And he kind of falls in love with the poor hotel worker, and she falls in love with him. And it's kind of like there's a little mystery in the background. It was so good. I enjoyed it. One of the things that I really liked about this book is that as each chapter opens, there's a little bit of history kind of behind this whole time period. There's also another mystery kind of weaved into here, and that is about all of these children that have gone disappearing and into orphanages and all of that. So I didn't really see a huge mystery in that. It was the ending. As we got toward the ending, I saw where this was going, but throughout most of the book, I did not, and I thought that was really interesting. So one of the other things that I really liked about this book was actually there is a friend, a really good friend to the hotel worker. I can't remember her name. Maria? No. Anna. Anna is our main character, and then Daniel. This was a little bit difficult at times because there were so many characters. Daniel and Anna are our two main characters, but there's also a sweet sister named Puri. Yes, because she was pure. I forgot. I remember that now. There's a sister Puri, or Puri, or Purai? Purity? Is kind of how I associated it. She is in here, and she is learning not to ask questions. And so they're constantly berating her for being curious about why things are the way they are. And basically she could get into some deep trouble if she keeps asking these questions. And so she starts being silent and observing more. And she's starting to figure out kind of what's going on the scenes. And I really liked her story. Kind of the beginning of just curious about life, and then that being stifled as it's really dangerous, don't do this, you'll get into a lot of trouble. And then she just learns to conform to them, but in a interesting way. I don't know. I think I lost y'all there. As Bright as Heaven by Susan Meissner. This is my first Susan Meissner. Okay. I have really wanted to read A Bridge Across the Ocean. Like, that's been one that I've longed to read, and I actually had As Bright as Heaven in my Amazon cart too. And so this is my first, and wow, this is so beautiful. This takes place just at, well, it starts out in the middle of, or near the end of World War I. And you have three sisters, a mother, a father, and basically they're grieving the loss of their brother. And so they move and they become the father becomes an undertaker. And so they're living as an undertaker's family with their uncle, as they're kind of grieving basically. And they meet characters, and then these characters kind of go off on their ways, and then the Spanish flu hits. And their lives are really affected by it, like hugely affected by the Spanish flu. And that's what the story is. I can't share so much about it because there's just so many moving parts, and each part fits into the ultimate story. So I don't want to do spoilers, but you have, you know, just at World War I, Spanish flu, and then a little bit after, or I'm sorry, during the Spanish flu is kind of, I think, you get a quarter of the book kind of leading up to that, the quarter of a book of dealing with the Spanish flu, and then pretty much the rest of the book, like this recovery, all of these pieces coming together. It was so beautiful. It was a very beautifully written book, and I now understand why everybody loves her. There was one scene that I wasn't sure where it was gonna go. I was getting a little nervous, and they stopped, and I was really thankful for that, because adultery is one of the things that I really cannot stand. And it stopped, and I don't know. Those are the books that I have read, finished, wanted to share these reviews with you. Now I'm going to see which of my children would love to walk with me to the library and get these returned. Hope you enjoyed this video. Till next time, have another cup of coffee, read another chapter. Does anybody want to walk with me to the library?